12 กรกฎาคมนี้นะครับจะเป็นการแข่งขัน The Match Bangkok Century Cup 2022 ที่จะนำพาลิเวอร์พูลมาลงสนามพบกับแมนเชสเตอร์ยูไนเต็ดเป็นครั้งแรกในทวีปเอเชียที่ราชมังคลากีฬาสถานโดยนอกจากการรับชมที่สนามแล้วเกมนี้จะมีการถ่ายทอดสดไปทั่วโลกกว่า100ประเทศเดอะสแตนดาร์ดนะครับได้มีโอกาสพิเศษพูดคุยกับโจสเปซผู้บรรยายกีฬาอาชีพจากพรีเมียร์ลีกอังกฤษที่จะทำหน้าที่นะครับเป็นผู้บรรยายภาษาอังกฤษของ The Match และถ่ายทอดเรื่องราวของการแข่งขันไปกว่า100ประเทศทั่วโลกโดยเราขอให้โจช่วยพรีวิวความน่าตื่นเต้นสำหรับแฟนบอลของทั้งสองทีมที่จะมาพบกันในครั้งนี้
Well, this is a fantastic opportunity for the people of Thailand to see these two historic teams. Whenever they come together, wherever they come together, it's always a very, very special occasion. It's one of the greatest sporting rivalries. It even transcends football. It's etched in history, etched in its locality in the northwest of England, but they'll transport themselves over to Thailand and they'll lock horns again. And I think from Manchester United's point of view, there's a big score to settle. I mean, the two fixtures they had last season in the Premier League were quite incredible, really. For Liverpool over the two games, that 5-0 win at Old Trafford, the 4-0 win at Anfield only a month or so ago. So it's a chance for Manchester United to try and start again, start this big rebuild under Erik ten Hag. Chance for Liverpool to try and pick up from where they left off last season. But for these two clubs to go to Thailand and for the local people there to have a chance to see that the star players, the star coaches, it'll be a wonderful occasion for everybody involved. I think every game that we as commentators broadcast starts from the basics. So there are two squads, 22 players on the pitch. I imagine the squads will be pretty large, travelling around because this is all part of a big tour for both clubs. So there may be 40 individuals from each team, I would imagine, travelling. So the initial nuts and bolts of the job is work out who all those players are. As I mentioned earlier, there may be a few debutants in terms of new signings, which will be exciting. Maybe also debutants in terms of young players coming through. So it's always a case of trying to work out who these people are and have a look at them and try and get accustomed to some of these new faces. And then beyond that, it is, as you say, it's the sense of occasion, the sense of spectacle, the atmosphere, conveying all that to the global audience. That's what we do every week. That's our job. But this is a bit unique. It's a new experience for so many of the players to be over there. So it's interesting from their point of view. And of course, it's a wonderful chance for the fans to see these players. So our job is to convey that excitement and have a sense of what it's like in the city on the day. The smell of a fixture. I hear commentators talk about that, the smell of a fixture, and it's our role to try and convey that to people who are watching, wherever they're watching, Africa, North America, the UK. So it's a challenge, but it's one that we really enjoy, and I'll do my best to try and speak to people on the ground that are around the stadium on the match day, just try and find out little bits of information that can add to the broadcast and add to that sense of colour and that sense of occasion. Well, for Liverpool, it's a case of trying to go again. And there have been the masters at going again under Jurgen Klopp. Last season, they played 63 games. It's a staggering number. They played every game they possibly could. They went as far as they could do in every cup competition. Lost, of course, in two finals, but lost in the Champions League final, but won two domestic trophies. Second to City in the league by only a point. It was a staggering effort. In some ways, it felt a bit underwhelming, you might say, to come away with just two trophies, but the numbers they racked up, I think over 90 goals in the Premier League, over 90 points in the Premier League, didn't lose a home game all season in the Premier League, didn't lose a game anywhere after the turn of the year in the Premier League. So there's so much to build on. I think the big question that we'll find out the answer to in the coming weeks and hopefully before this match in Bangkok is who will still be there for Liverpool. I think that's the big question that will concern their fans right now. Lots of talk over the past few days of Sadio Mane perhaps wanting to move on and interest we understand from Bayern Munich. Mo Salah is in the same position with 1 year left on his contract. The indications are he might stay and see out that 1 year of his contract. But they have been two absolutely fundamental players to Liverpool's system, Jurgen Klopp's system, over his 6-7 years there now. And if they were to both go at a similar time, whether it be this summer or whether they both might end up going in the space of 12 months, there's maybe a sense that Liverpool have come to a point in the road here where there's a bit of a refresh required. They might have to tweak a few things. They're looking at a striker, we understand, Darwin Núñez from Benfica. So maybe a chance that we might see a debutant in Bangkok, which if that happens, it would be very exciting. And they have had an amazing record in terms of their recruitment over the past couple of years. They've been quite quiet in terms of recruitment, but they've been targeted signings and they've been tremendous in terms of the influence they've had. Last summer, one new player came in, Ibrahima Konate, wonderful first season with the club. January, Luis Diaz came in and his integration into the system was astonishing. So if they have to bring in one or two, given what they've done and their track record in terms of signings, I think you'd be very confident they'd sign the right players. So there might need to be that bit of tweaking going on with the squad. But as I mentioned earlier, it's just a case of building on what they achieved last year because, yes, it could have been a quadruple, but it was a double and they were outstanding in the two other tournaments they're in as well. To lose to Manchester City and to lose to Real Madrid, there's no disgrace in that whatsoever. I think Liverpool fans should appreciate that they're currently witnessing a very, very special football team. And it's wonderful that the people of Thailand and in Bangkok will have a chance to see this special team in the flesh. I think what should be exciting for fans of Manchester United is that this is a fresh start. Yes, there have been a few terrible years and the last few months of last season would have been awful to watch for a fan of United, but a new start, a new beginning, a new coach, you can put all that behind you now. There's no point looking back, no point with the inquests and the recriminations, the post-mortems. Let's just look forward. And Erik ten Hag is a man to get behind. His track record is very, very impressive. It seemed to be pretty clear when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer departed midway through last season that Erik ten Hag was always the first choice. Some talk about Maurizio Pochettino as well, but ten Hag was the man they wanted. They got him. He came over at the back end of last season. He was there for the Crystal Palace game at Selhurst Park to watch from the stands on the final day. How much he would have learned from that game, I'm not too sure, but he came in early. By the time they go to Bangkok, he'll have been in situ for a couple of months, really. They'll have had the squad together in training for a couple of weeks. So he'll have had time to have his first look at that squad. And it's a time to rebuild. And yes, things might not happen overnight and there's going to have to be that sense of patience, but there should also be great respect for what he's done. He's a man who won a league title with Ajax last season. I think most famously, most impressively, got them to the Champions League semi-finals a few years ago when they were very close to reaching the final, losing out in heartbreaking fashion against Tottenham Hotspur. There's going to need to be some serious work done in the transfer window or windows. I'm not sure they'll solve all the problems in one window. It might take 2, 3, 4 to do it. We know there's some outgoings that have been confirmed already. Players who came to the end of their contract have gone. People like Pogba, Lingard, Matic, Cavani. So they're going to have to bring some players in to replace them anyway to get the squad numbers up. And the players that he brings in, we'll wait and see with interest who they are. I think an element of excitement for fans of United as well should be that Erik ten Hag was renowned at Ajax for bringing through young players, and that may well be an area he goes down again coming to Old Trafford, coming to English football. And if you look at the FA Youth Cup from last season, Manchester United won that for the first time in just over 10 years, I think. So there's obviously a crop of young players there who will get a chance. And I think it's very likely we'll see them in Bangkok because very often in pre-season, it's time for experimentation. It's time for Ten Hag to have a look at all the resources he has. So we may see a few teenagers get some minutes in what will be a very big game for them. What a way to start off your career potentially for Manchester United against Liverpool with a new coach, with that fantastic atmosphere in Bangkok. So yes, there's a lot of concern on what's gone before, but I think for fans of United now, you should start again. That's all gone. It's a new start, and fingers crossed that things get better. They can only get better. Well, to be honest, pre-season matches tend to be very unpredictable. And I think this one could be in that mould, absolutely, because you're going to have a lot of players who are playing for the first time in pre-season, so fitness levels might not be up to scratch. They won't be up to scratch. Liverpool's main fitness element of pre-season happens in a training camp in Austria, which they go to following this trip to Thailand. So they might be a bit rusty. Sometimes that creates mistakes, and mistakes make for entertaining football matches sometimes. You've also got some unbelievably talented footballs on show, so when they're around, magic can happen. You know, Mo Salah could produce something incredible. Cristiano Ronaldo could produce something incredible. So it's almost impossible to suggest how it's going to go. I think if you look back at recent history, then you would certainly be putting money on Liverpool winning the match. I think their recent stats, I mean, last year was quite something, but go a bit further back. I think they're unbeaten in the previous 8 matches against United in the Premier League. I think United won just 1 out of the previous 12 between the two. So if United were to win, it might be seen as a surprise. It would be seen as a surprise given how far the two teams were apart last season, but there is so much motivation for Manchester United to try and win the game, to get their new era off to a good start, and it would be a great start. It would be such a morale boost for everyone involved with the club if they could beat Liverpool in the first match under Erik ten Hag. So from that point of view, they'll be up for it for certain. It'll be frantic, it'll be frenetic, as these games always are between these two sides in whatever tournament they play. But it could also be demoralising for United if Liverpool do run away with it again. So my prediction would be for goals. I think it's hard to say who will win. You'd have to favour Liverpool, but it can be uncertain. I'll put my head on the line and go 3-1 Liverpool. I think there should be, hopefully, 2 major impacts, I would say. One is the economic impact, to have 2 superpowers of world sport in Thailand should create so much interest around the game. It should be a massive buzz in the city for the time that they're there, and that can only be a good thing. And then secondly, I would hope that the fans should see some sort of legacy factor from this. Young fans will have the chance to see these players in the flesh for the very first time, and potentially the only time maybe in their lives. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for some people who'll be there in July. So you would hope that would rub off and encourage people to have a go at playing football themselves, watch more football. Football is a very powerful thing. Sport's a very powerful thing, but football in particular in the modern era is extremely powerful, and it can be a vehicle for so much good change. You know, going out playing football, whether you just play in the park, you play with your mates, or whether you play at a higher level, it's good for you. It's exercise, it's fitness, it's a good thing, and it's competitive. And I think the virtues of sport should always be promoted, and having these 2 clubs over there in Bangkok should hopefully do that. And if some young players have the chance, have the motivation to see these players and think, you know what, I'll give this a go, then that'd be great. And you never know, there might be a few gems out there that need this catalyst to start their own careers. And the scouting networks of these clubs nowadays are absolutely enormous. They've got tentacles everywhere, all over the world, looking for new talent, and they might find someone. Someone might pop up from nowhere and launch a new career, and we could be talking about them in 20 years' time playing in big games like this. And that'd be wonderful if that was to happen.
สำหรับการแข่งขัน The Match Bangkok Century Cup 2022 จะมีขึ้นในวันที่ 12 กรกฎาคมนี้ที่ราชมังคลากีฬาสถานประตูจะเปิดให้แฟนบอลเข้าสนามได้ตั้งแต่เวลา 15 นาฬิกาก่อนที่แจ็คสันหวังศิลปินชื่อดังจากวง GOT7 จะขึ้นแสดงเป็นเวลา1ชั่วโมงเต็มตั้งแต่เวลา 18 นาฬิกาถึง 19 นาฬิกาและแมตช์จะคิกออฟในเวลา 20 นาฬิกานอกจากการนำพา2สโมสรชื่อดังจากอังกฤษมาลงสนามพบกันในเอเชียเป็นครั้งแรกที่กรุงเทพแล้วนะครับฝ่ายจัดการแข่งขันยังได้ปรับปรุงสนามให้ราชมังคลากีฬาสถานมีบรรยากาศที่คล้ายกับสนามโอลด์แทราฟฟอร์ดและแอนฟิลด์มากที่สุดเพื่อประสบการณ์ในการรับชมที่คล้ายกับแดงเดือดต้นตำรับที่เกาะอังกฤษนั่นเองครับ